Might see the shots coming from Angela Day. Halfway up.
Where it's coming from.
Bullets just, they just kept coming in. Just like it just didn't stop.
We have an active shooter. We have an active shooter inside the whereabouts.
Yo, come here.
Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're going to be discussing one of the most critical and crucial parts of law enforcement that nobody talks about or teaches. We're going to share it with you. I'm Kyle Schoberg. This is Mark Redlich, and this is the Shots Fired podcast.
Before we get started, we want to thank Near, the sponsor of today's video. Near manufactures and sells premium audio equipment. Near is best known for its 360 in-ear pieces, boosting 0% ear fatigue, in-ear micro technology, 100% situational awareness, crystal clear communication, and ultimately unmatched comfort. Okay, I want to ask all of you that are watching and listening to this video a question. And I really want you to think about all the training that you've had in your past. And the question is, have you had any training when it comes to communication? Have you had any training with communication or radio communication? And I know you're sitting there processing this, and most of you are probably going to say, no, I haven't had any formal training with radio communication or really any training with communication. So I want to break that down and tell you why it is so critical for law enforcement officers to really understand what communication is and why the things that you are saying on the radio dictates the response of those officers coming to help you. There's two sides to this: the officer that is on scene and then the officers that are responding. Now let's focus on the officer on scene. Picture a call for service that you've been on. What's happening, what you're hearing, what you're seeing, movements of people, where you're standing, the environment. And now you need some assistance. Whatever that assistance is, you've got to get on the radio and you've got to communicate that information to responding officers. Now put yourself in the perspective of not being on scene in a patrol car, and now you're hearing someone ask for some form of assistance. What are they saying is going to dictate your response.
Shots fired.
Copy, shots fired.
Now, if you are responding and you get in an officer-involved shooting or someone is shooting at you and you say shots fired on the radio, that's all you say. The officers that are responding are in an environment where they don't see what's happening and all they hear is shots fired on the radio and there's no follow-up. That officer is thinking the absolute worst thing is happening. So you have a responsibility of being on scene. If you're involved in a shooting, we really recommend that you really communicate what's happening. Shots fired, and then immediately, if you can, as soon as it's safe and possible, describe what's happening. I've been involved in a shooting. The suspect is down, or the suspect is shooting at me. I am not injured. I'm off to the side. I have a safe place for coverage. I need officers to respond this direction, come from the north or come from the south. Really be descriptive, because just saying one thing on the radio leaves it open-ended for the officers that are responding.
6-5, we've been involved in a shooting. One down in the living room. Charles 6-4, we've been involved in a shooting. One suspect, male. Shot twice, down in the living room. My partner and I, okay, not hurt. Outside, we're detaining a female now.
And remember, those officers that are responding to you are going to be driving code 3 and they're going to be driving faster and faster, and they're picturing in their mind the absolute worst situation. So your obligation on scene is to really paint a clear picture for that responding officer.
All right, now this is a perfect time to introduce Near's innovative earpiece that they offer. Guys, you're used to your bulky earpiece. It hurts at the end of the day. More than likely, you're taking that thing out because it's killing your ear. It gives you a headache. And by the end of your shift, you're just over it. Let's talk about Near and why their product is different among everybody else. They actually have a braided fiber cloth cord that actually takes up to 90 pounds of pressure before it even breaks. This thing is so tiny and lightweight. The best part about it is it does bypass the tube that you're typically used to where the sound travels to. They actually have the speaker at the end of the earpiece. What does that mean? This thing fits nice and snug around your ear, and the speaker sits in your ear, but it doesn't affect ambient noise coming in. So you can have full situational awareness. You can hear everything without a big bulky earpiece blocking out communication. You can get this in a single earpiece like I have here in my hands with a push to talk that it comes with, or even better, if you're working a crowd control, a loud event, a concert, you name it, you need to be able to hear everything that's going on around you, but you also need to have clear communication with your radio comms. They offer a dual earpiece. I've never seen anything like this. I think this is fantastic, and it couldn't come at a better time in law enforcement.
Now let's talk about the channels of communication. There's 6 different levels of this. So first is the officer that is on scene. Then you have the encoding process. What that means is the officer that is on scene is really taking in all the information that's around them. What's happening, what's being said, what critical information needs to be broadcasted, what does not need to be said, really trying to process everything that's happening. And then the next step is messaging. Now they have to make the determination of what am I actually going to say? Now remember, everything that you say on the radio or don't say dictates the response of officers that are responding to help you. So the key information here is describing exactly what's happening and giving the real key information so you're painting a clear picture for those officers. Then the next step is really making the identification of how you're going to provide that information or what that channel is. That could be the radio, it could be hand signals, it could be uses of flashing of lights, it could be your body positioning. There's all forms of different communication that you may use with your teams. Now the next step, usually where the breakdown of communication is who is receiving that information. Now we have an officer on scene that's describing something. Are they just broadcasting and saying things because they think it needs to be said, or someone's told them that you need to update and provide this information? Or are they providing this information to specific people? That's the receiver. It could be you responding to a call. And then last step of that is the person that's receiving that information has to decode what you're saying. So bringing this back full circle, everything that you're seeing on scene, trying to paint a clear picture of that, identifying how you're going to communicate that, what form that is, and then broadcasting that clear so the officers that are responding have a good understanding of what's happening. That's the steps for communication.
Hey, Mark, so one thing that has always stood out to me when we're teaching our class on this particular topic of communication, you always share a story about something your FTO did for you while you were on field training, and it always resonates with everybody else in class. In fact, the last one we just recently did, an FTO was in class and said, I am going to start doing that. Share with everybody what that was and how that's helped you to master communication under stress.
So when I first became a police officer, the first 6 weeks of working patrol, I rode with this officer. In the beginning of my shift, in full uniform, he'd put me on a treadmill and I had to walk and then jog and run on the treadmill for about 30 minutes. And during that time, he would tell me, I want you to visualize where you're driving and put out a vehicle pursuit. Name the streets, the locations, what the description of the car is. And I'd have to do that while running on the treadmill. And then now he would say, now I want you to visualize getting in a foot pursuit. Picture a location, going through backyards, alleys, put out a foot pursuit and describe somebody. And then in there, at the same exact time, he would distract me and have me say different things on the radio and he'd have me stop. And the whole point of this training was I'm doing multiple things while processing what's happening and trying to say and figure out exactly what is important to put on the radio and what is not important to put on the radio. And I tell you what, that prepared me for multiple critical incidents because getting on the radio was always a fear until I rode with him. And it was really easy after that because you start to identify exactly what I need to say. And the officers that are responding to come and help me need to know what information I have. And by not giving them that information, withholding that or saying things that are irrelevant or just taking up radio time.
Yeah, I think that's such a great idea because when you're in some type of foot pursuit or something, I mean, it's a very stressful situation and the information you put out is vital for the responding officers. And that's another reason why I love Near's product and this push to talk that attaches to your uniform. This thing is the perfect size and has the capability to be able to key up your mic and effectively talk. Nothing is worse than having one of those super small push to talk buttons somewhere on your uniform. It makes it very difficult to key your mic up and put out information. I love this product. Let's get into footage from a major scene or a chaotic situation like the Vegas shooting or just most recently the Chiefs Super Bowl parade where shots were fired. It's very chaotic. There's a ton of things going on. Talk about communication from that standpoint.
Well, I'll tell you, that's why I actually really like the option of the Near's single earpiece, and then they have the dual earpiece. Now, working large events or crowds, you've got to be able to hear. And in that case, you're dealing with a parade, the Kansas City Chiefs victory parade. You're dealing with a lot of people. There's celebration, there's drinking, there's music. It's loud. You've got to be able to communicate with your officers, and having just one earpiece is going to be very difficult. We've worked large events, and that's why having the option for the dual earpiece in the technology that they have where the speaker floats inside your ear, you still can hear clear communication from the radio, but you also have ambient noise coming in so you understand and you can hear what's going on around you. It's all about situational awareness.
Yeah, and I think as an officer, it's so hard not to get sucked into the event or whatever it is that's going on, but to stay task at hand. You have a job to do. You're there to protect everybody else that's there. So I agree with you. Having the ability to have clear communication with each other if something were to happen is extremely vital, and it can't be overlooked.
And it's not just working like downtown right in the middle of a parade where all the noise is. There's a lot of different responsibilities for working major events. You even have traffic control, helping people park way on the outside. And that's where the option of the single earpiece is, because you might not need dual earpiece, but you can use the one earpiece. And then you still have the ability to hear left and right.
All right, so something else that's worth mentioning on the lines of communication, we're talking about all these large events and chaotic situations, is most of the time you only ever see the patrol uniform cops down there, but a lot of the times agencies are deploying undercover cops in those capacities to be in the middle of the crowds or whatever to keep a pulse on everything that's going on. And Near actually designs a sleek, awesome earpiece that is designed strictly for undercover operations, and their push to talk is able to put in your hand, on your wrist, anywhere, so that you can effectively communicate without showcasing it to everybody.
Now, I want to recap the absolute importance of communication and why it is so vital in law enforcement and the responses of officers. Now, remember, what you say, how you say it, the picture that you're painting or the picture that you're not painting is going to dictate the response of everyone else. That's why we recommend constantly training communication, setting up scenarios, and really focusing on why it is so important.
All right, so if you're not currently using a Near earpiece, you need to go over to n-ear.com or click the link in the description below and pick from their variety of earpieces that they offer that is suitable for you. These things are fantastic. I love the innovative engineering of them. Makes your job so much more easy. And along the lines of communication, this is everything you need to be effective in your communicating. Guys, don't miss out. n-ear.com or to click the link in the description below. They have so many different products to choose from. Don't sell yourself short. Invest in the equipment that matters to you.
All right, thanks everyone for watching. Be smart, stay safe, and we'll catch you on the next one.